Hello, friends, and welcome to episode 637 of the Juicebox Podcast. On April 7th, 2015, episode 10 of the Juicebox Podcast went up, and it was a conversation with a woman named Anna. Anna was the mom of a small child with type 1 diabetes, and today, some 7 years later, she is back on the podcast to check in. Please remember while you're listening that nothing you hear on the Juicebox Podcast should be considered advice, medical or otherwise. Always consult a physician before making any changes to your healthcare plan or becoming bold with insulin. Also, I want to tell you that on the day this was recorded, about a block from my home, someone was grinding a stump, and it made a horrible noise, and it came in on my microphone at times. It's not throughout the whole episode, but there'll be moments when you hear me talk and there'll be this hum behind me. It's not overwhelming, and it's only when my microphone is open. So whenever Anna's talking, I just realized, now you can make fun of me in your head for talking so much, but whenever I'm not talking, you won't hear it at all. And it's not distracting. It's just something I'm aware of, and I'm apologizing for it now because I wish I could have done something about it. This show is sponsored today by the glucagon that my daughter carries, Gvoke HypoPen. Find out more at gvokeglucagon.com/juicebox.
Well, I'm Anna, and I'm mum of Teddy, who we spoke about, I don't know, maybe 7 or 8 years ago. I should have checked that. But he was diagnosed with diabetes in 2012. So I've always felt like he was a little bit behind what Arden was experiencing. And obviously following you was just amazing because I could see how well you were doing, and it gave me so much encouragement with the situation when Teddy was diagnosed. So yeah, it's really good to catch up now when he's 13 now. So
okay, so I'm looking now, and this is really astonishing. I haven't really done this a lot. You're maybe like the second or third recording I've done, like catching up with people who were on the show at one point. But you were on episode 10.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And look how many you've done now.
There are 540 of them up right now.
Wow.
And I mean, yours might end up being like 600, like, or something like that by the time they all go up. I remember, so see how funny it is that they all blend together a little bit for me now.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah.
But I remember the management of making your episode because I was so new at it that I didn't know what I was doing yet. So just setting them up and putting them online took forever. I think this is going to be a lot of fun. So I'm really happy that you reached out. What made you reach out?
Well, I started listening to your podcasts again, having had a break, really just because I didn't have the right time to sit down and listen. And I started listening again because, through lockdown, obviously, more time through COVID. So, and I thought, oh God, you're still saying stuff that is totally interesting and I can learn from. And I was just really gobsmacked at how you could still be saying things that were so different to what anyone around me says in when we talk about diabetes in this country. So it sort of really fueled me to think, God, you did, you really made a difference to our lives at the beginning. And it's just great you're carrying on doing it for so many other people now. So.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, your episode went up April 7th, 2015. And we're recording today on the 7th of September, 2020.
Okay.
have to maybe I have to echo your gobsmackery, because I don't know that I thought the podcast was still going to be going now either. But I figured some things out since then. So I'm glad it was there for you when you went back to it. So let's remind people a tiny bit, and then we'll jump forward. Teddy was how old when he was diagnosed?
3.
And how old is he now?
13.
Hold on a second. Wow, he was like 7 when we spoke the first time?
Yeah, 6 or 7. I'm looking now. Yeah. Yeah, I think it still felt really new. And we were still on the injections at that point. I think because I knew from listening to you that I wanted Omnipod, and you just couldn't get it here then. Like you just couldn't. So it was before he had a pump.
How long's he had a pod now? It's hard, isn't it? It starts to blend together.
Yeah, 6 years. I think, yeah, probably quite soon after I spoke to you last time. Yeah, because 6 years. I could be wrong. He maybe already had one when I spoke to you.
I'm not sure anymore. It's really funny. How is he using a CGM?
Yeah, he's got Dexcom. So he's on the G6, and both those things I knew about from you, and both those things were here in the UK later than available for you guys. And I had to find a hospital that I knew would be able to get funding for us to have those things. So we moved hospitals, and
It's amazing. I'm very happy that you're back. What was it? What's my question? Was being on a podcast back then that basically, I mean, it wasn't being listened to the way it is now. Like, for instance, one day in the future, I'm going to put this episode up. And in the first 3 hours that it's live on the internet, it'll get downloaded more than your previous episode was downloaded probably in a year.
Yeah.
Was there anything that came from being on the podcast? Did anyone say, I knew that was you? Or did it just make you feel good to tell your story to other people? Like, what was the outcome of doing it the first time?
I think it made me feel something I already felt, that actually what I was thinking about type 1 was so completely not shared by anyone in the community in this country. And I felt like I was part of a special gang, like across the sea. So it felt special, and it felt, I just felt, how do we not know these things? How do the hospitals not push these things? Why is this stuff not available? Why is this dialogue not here about aiming for normal blood sugar levels? And so, it made me feel like I was part of another gang.
Because you had seen those things, right? Like, you were having those thoughts, but there was just nowhere to anchor them to.
No, and at the point when I spoke to you, I was feeling quite down, because the way I was dealing with it was by finger pricking, like sometimes 20 plus times every 24 hours. And I knew that was the only way that I could see what was happening. And I knew it wasn't good. It wasn't great for Teddy, but in one way it was great for Teddy, because it meant we had good management. And I was being told off for using too many test strips, and I was getting told off all the time by the doctors, and I just stuck to it. And I even said, at some point we're going to have a device that does all this for us. We won't need to finger prick, because I'd heard about Dexcom, probably through you, and the consultant said that will never happen. And it seemed crazy to me that
boundless hope from your
Yeah.
doctors. When you say that they were giving you trouble, were they giving you trouble for poking him so much, or for using the test strips up?
Well, firstly, it was a shame for his fingers, they kept saying. And I said, well, actually, he doesn't really mind. He doesn't. I mean, he didn't like the injections one bit, but finger pricks, once your fingers have been roughed up like that, I don't, he didn't mind. He really didn't mind. And it was far better for him than having to have hypo treatment or, correction injections and all the rest. So, but also financially, because we get funded by the NHS, they kept telling me it was costing too much money. So I was going through them too quickly.
But were you having better outcomes than they were accustomed to seeing?
Definitely.
Yeah.
We were always told, we actually left, you wouldn't be surprised, but we left that hospital when that doctor told me that it would never happen, that something would replace a finger prick. But he was having better outcomes than anyone else in that, any other child in that hospital. And the case is the same today in the hospital we're in, that we're always praised about how we're sort of top in terms of management. And that just makes me feel a bit sort of disappointed in the system, because you think, well, we should all be doing this. So anyway,
it's kind of confounding, isn't it, that you're having an outcome that's so much different than everyone else's, and instead of them saying to you, hey, what are you doing? Maybe we should be doing this. They're like, you have to stop doing this. Like why fight against, I don't know. It's such an interesting thing that they would just fight against that idea instead of embracing it, or at least trying to figure out why it's working.
Yeah, I think they've moved on. I think they have moved on a bit now. They have. And there's all obviously different consultants. Some are going to be more forward thinking. Some are going to embrace the technology more. But there's a whole load of sort of old school ones that really just don't like change. And they like to do, they still think you should eat meals at the same time a day. You should only test if you're testing once every 2 hours. And they still seem to think that works, which is something I always had to say it just doesn't work. So anyway.
At least not as well as what you're doing. So
no.
Did you find the blog? Were you reading my blog? You were reading my blog.
Was that before the podcast then?
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah. It would have to be, because, I mean, honestly, if you were on in April, that means I recorded you soon before that, March, and the podcast only began in January. So, I mean, I'd be surprised if you heard one of the first episodes in England and then reached out. That's, it's so funny. I can't remember the details of it really, but I remember.
Yeah, no, I was definitely reading the blog.
Okay, back when you were on, it was easy to like name the episodes, because I was just like, this one will be called Teddy's Mom, and that's it. I have to be more. I have to be more agile now, because I'm starting to. The other day, I thought to name something. And I typed it into the search bar for the episodes, and I had already used that title for something. And I was like, ooh, uh-oh. Gonna have to get a little more thoughtful about this. So
well, it's a creative thing, isn't it?
Yeah, well, you just have to.
Creativity.
I get yelled at, speaking of getting told off, like people tell me all the time, your titles don't tell me what the episodes are about. And I always think, I don't know what the episodes are about. I recorded them, and they seem like we talk about, 20 different things. I can't just pick one of them and tell you, the show's about this today. It might end up being about a bunch of things. So I don't know. I think I'm doing okay. But every once in a while somebody comes after me for it. Well, how is Teddy doing? Like, what's his life like now compared to back then?
Oh, he's great. We were just walking the dog before this, and because he goes back to school tomorrow, after the summer holidays, and we're just sort of chatting about the plan for school, what he's going to do with his type 1 and how he's going to manage it. And he's just so mature and positive, and totally understands what he's doing. I don't know. I think it's made him. He's so well organized. It's unbelievable. So yeah, I feel that diabetes for him now, type 1, is a good positive thing in his life, because he owns it, and it doesn't get in the way.
What do you think led him to be that way? I mean, it's the two. Correct me if I'm wrong. Are you married?
No, we're not married, but we've been together for 25 years, I think.
Wow.
But no, we're not married. But me and Tom live together, and we've got 3 kids.
Okay, together. So you guys are together, and they're so Teddy is where in the 3 kids? So they're older.
He's
younger?
Middle.
He's the middle. Okay.
Yeah.
Any other autoimmune stuff pop up with the other kids?
No.
Nothing. Gotcha. So I'm saying, like, what do you think? Like, do you think he was always kind of a mature kid, or do you think the diabetes has helped him with that?
I think the diabetes has helped him because he's never rebelled against it. He's never pushed against it. He's always understood it and accepted it, and wanted what we want for him to be his best, and understood why that means good management. So I think it's the diabetes. I mean, who knows? There's certain things that are in his genes, and certain things that are, but I think it's made him extra special anyway.
Yeah. And I didn't mean the diabetes turns you into a better person. I just mean like the work that you have to do, and the concern and consideration that they maybe kind of hone you a little bit, make you a little more mature at a lesser age, maybe. I don't know. Like, cause Arden's the same way. She's super like, I don't know even how to like talk about it, I guess. Like you could leave Arden alone. Arden will be okay. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, she takes care of things. She's thoughtful about her safety and that sort of stuff. Things like that I don't even know that my son is at an older age. I think she's just accustomed to thinking about herself and understanding impacts of things that are kind of outside of her control.
Yeah. But I think it's also made him quite thoughtful about other people. So I suppose one of the things that really troubles him is he is quite self-conscious. So he knows that we totally respect that as well. So I've never wanted to push his diabetes, out there to be visible. But he's just very sensitive, but in a very good way. So he's quite sensitive about other people and how they might feel about certain things. So I'm sure that's the diabetes. I mean, you have to put up with quite a few disappointments in life, don't you, when you're diabetic? Yeah. Although you can do anything, there are times when you just, it's like, no, you can't have another bit of cake, and no, you can't trampoline for another hour at the moment. And you have to just accept that. And I think that's really good life skill, because there's so many things in life that, you could let sort of flatten you. But if you're resilient in that way and think, oh, well, it doesn't actually matter, then it's such a good skill for life.
Yeah. Well, I think too, in a more digital age, there's an idea that everything you want is going to be there for you immediately. It's hard not to feel. We were in a movie theater 2 days ago, and during the movie, a person in front of me pulled out their phone to read an article about the movie. And it fried my brain. I thought, just watch the movie and then you'll see what's going to happen. Like, why are you reading about it? Like, are you so accustomed to having the answer immediately that you can't sit in this movie to get the answer? Like, it was just a very, very odd thing. And I take your point, like, about him just sometimes needing to be accepting and moving on. I think that's a hell of a life skill that we all need, honestly, that everything can't always go our way and definitely won't. Well, that's interesting. It really is.
Yeah.
How long has he been, like you said, he's heading back to school after summer break, but had he been at school prior to that, or how's school been going there?
Yeah, I can't really remember how much time they've been at school. It's been so weird, hasn't it? But they did go back after Christmas, and we're there all the way through to July. I've got one child who's homeschooled. The eldest is at home, so that confuses things a little bit as well. But Teddy likes being at school. I think he likes his friends.
Yeah.
But we've had a really fantastic summer, just chilling out, and yeah, it's always a bit sad to go back to school.
Do you still live at the same house from when we spoke the first time?
Yeah, we do, and it's absolutely gorgeous. And we've got, we just have so many nice things we can do. And I listen to your podcasts, and you talk about eating out a lot, and it's quite a job for us to eat out. It's quite a journey. You can't get takeaways delivered. So I think that probably means we eat a better diet in one way, because we just we can't just go out and have something to eat very easily.
Yeah, I remember you sending me a photo of like your property and thinking of how kind of just lovely it was, and feels like it's in the woods and a little removed from things. It's really nice. It's interesting that it brings up that idea that you can't go, at a moment's notice. You can't run to a restaurant or to a store. You have to be prepared to cook and have things in the home. And I guess that's interesting. You say it leads to better eating.
I think we live quite a slow life compared to a lot of people, probably because of the location. But I think we do live quite a slow life. So anything that happens outside the house is like a special occasion. And thankfully, the kids seem to really enjoy that. They're not really desperate to go off and do, like, mentioning the trampoline park. It's maybe once a year at the most that we do something like that. We have a meal out maybe once every 6 weeks.
How does Teddy? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to step on you.
No, that's.
How does Teddy get to school?
He gets a taxi.
Oh, every day. That's lovely. See, that seems like
I know
regal to me.
I know. Well, the thing is, there is a school bus that takes them, but we live up this bumpy track with potholes, and it's really twisty and very narrow. There's no way a bus could get down here. And the bus can't stop on the road. The road's really bendy. Mm-hmm. So they provide a taxi. It's totally amazing. So when my daughter starts high school, which will be next year, that'll be 2 of them in the taxi, and I won't have to do any car journeys running kids to and from school. And I've been doing that for, 10 years. I've been running kids to and from school in the car. So
you won't miss that. That's
no.
I have to tell you that one of the best things that happened during COVID was me not having to get up super early in the morning because of school for Arden and helping her get things together and taking her to school. I got so accustomed not to sleeping long, but just not getting up so early, and I really liked it. I have to tell you.
I know, because there is so much to do. And I just think I hate the school routine. I hate it. And I can't really say how much I hate it, because I have to tell the kids it's a really positive thing to go to school. But it's just all the stuff they need, and, shoes that are right. And I mean, I don't know, but mine have to wear uniforms. I don't know if you have to wear a uniform at your schools.
Arden doesn't. No, she doesn't have to. But she also might not meet the queen. So I guess it could happen for Teddy, right? What did you take away from the podcast about management. Like you said, you were expecting that there were things that existed. You felt it kind of inside, but you couldn't find anybody else talking about it. You found me speaking about it. Did you just get to a place where diabetes sort of fell into the background and it just went the way you expected? Gvoke HypoPen has no visible needle and is the first pre-mixed auto-injector of glucagon for very low blood sugar in adults and kids with diabetes, ages 2 and above. Not only is Gvoke HypoPen simple to administer, but it's simple to learn more about. All you have to do is go to gvokeglucagon.com/juicebox. Gvoke shouldn't be used in patients with insulinoma or pheochromocytoma. Visit gvokeglucagon.com/risk. Quickly, before we get back to Anna, I'd like to remind you that if you're a U.S. citizen who has type 1 diabetes, or you're a U.S. citizen who is the caregiver of someone with type 1, the T1D Exchange is very interested in your answers to a simple survey. You can find that survey at t1dexchange.org/juicebox. By completing the survey, you are helping someone with type 1 diabetes. You're also supporting the Juicebox Podcast. t1dexchange.org/juicebox. That link, as well as links to the sponsors, are all available right there in your podcast app. Right there, there's notes in there. You go into the little, you'll see it, and they're right there. You can click right on them, or you can find those same links at juiceboxpodcast.com. If you're looking for the Diabetes Pro Tip series, they are also available at juiceboxpodcast.com. They're available at diabetesprotip.com. And they're available, again, right there in your podcast player. Just search for Juicebox Podcast, Diabetes Pro Tip. The first episode of the Pro Tip series begins at episode 210. But for that list, check out diabetesprotip.com or join the private Facebook group and look up there at the top. What do they call it at the top of the Facebook group? They just changed it. Facebook changes the name sometimes. In the featured section, and there's lists of all of the, you want me to look? Hold on. If you go into the featured section on the private Facebook group is called Juicebox Podcast, Type 1 Diabetes. There are lists of the Pro Tip series, of the Defining Diabetes series, the Diabetes Variables series, the Quick Start episodes, How We Eat series. There's one of those. There's a list of popularly requested episodes. There are special episodes that you can find. Mental Wellness series, Scott and Jenny's, where listeners send in questions that Jenny and I answered. We're actually going to be doing more of them in 2022, but there's a ton of them already there. There are significant amounts of information about how to bolus for fat and protein. So much to choose from. Juicebox Podcast, Type 1 Diabetes. It's a private Facebook group with over 22,000 members in it. And if you go right up there at the top in the featured section, you can find all of that and much more.
I think the first thing I got from it, which changed my life, was that it is completely right to want your child to have the same blood sugar as you do. And I always felt that in my gut, that to be healthy, you should have the same blood sugar as a normal person, generally as much as you can, because that's how our bodies have been made. And nobody was saying that to me at all. So I felt like I was sort of inventing that. And it was so nice to have that validated, that, it's a true and right goal to have normal blood sugar. And then you gave me some of the tools to achieve that. And some of that was the technology. Some of that was of micro bolusing. I think one of your podcasts that you did with the sugar surfer, can't remember his name.
Dr. Ponder.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, that changed things hugely. And these were all things I wanted to do, but I wasn't being told I should. And I'm quite good at following rules, so I was quite cautious about breaking the rules that were being imposed upon us. But it was all stuff I really wanted to do. You know, being aggressive with highs and catching the lows and bolusing regularly and bolusing way in advance, like especially for breakfast, that, you know, nailed the breakfast. And but more just the belief that you can do it, you can achieve good control.
That ends up being what I guess sounds like the most important part to you, is just having a foundation, an idea to work for, instead of like, this is going to be a mess and nothing's going to be right now and your kid's sick and you can't have decent blood sugars. So, you know, just accept that and then let your life be what it's going to be. And you feeling like, I don't want that for him. And I don't even feel like maybe that's not even really true. How do I find out? And then you learn, okay, I can aim for more. And then here's ways to aim for more. And then after that, you're on your way, I guess. How long do you think it took to pull things together to where you were comfortable and it felt easier?
I think since Teddy was, I'd say for the last 5 years, it's felt like it's easy.
Okay.
And it's almost like you just get in the zone, don't you? And people say, is it not hard work? And you just say, well, it's literally what you do. I've got an Apple Watch. I look at my watch all the time. We react straight away. We do all the text messaging, you know, which I learned from you. And at that point, Teddy didn't have a phone. When you were talking about texting Arden, I was like, oh my God, he's got to have a phone. Because I thought he was too young to have a phone. But yeah, just all your tricks. It just became second nature. And I don't know, I go to the consultant and he's like, do you never have a break? Do you not want to sit down in the evening with a glass of wine? It must be such hard work. And he goes on like that. And I'm like, it's totally second nature. The hard work, and I think that's what you've always said, is if you miss the highs or you miss the lows, that's where the hard work starts. So, you know, I still feel that some people just don't get it. It's normal, isn't it, for us and for you? It's not extra work at all.
I share your feelings completely. I would a million times over prefer to just pay attention for a couple of seconds to avoid a problem than to spend the hours of turmoil chasing blood sugars around and being fearful that happens when things get out of whack. Like that part, I couldn't have lived through that. Okay. Like eventually that would have gotten to me. But the other stuff now, like just doing something beforehand, it's, I don't want to say it's easy because I don't want to insult anybody, but second nature is a great way to put it. Like we walked into that movie theater the other day and Arden got, you know, food she doesn't normally have all at once. And her blood sugar never went over like 145. And she was drinking one of those giant, like Slurpee things, those icy. And, I never even remember.
Was it blue?
It was this one was pretending to be Coca-Cola. So
okay.
It was brown.
Teddy has these blue ones, which make your mouth all blue.
Yeah. Well, I didn't get a drink because, of course, anyone who has a family knows after you pay for everybody else's stuff, you're like, well, I guess I won't have something so that this doesn't cost $1 million. You know.
That's what I always do. You get the smallest portion as well when you serve dinner.
Someone tell me if there's popcorn left at the end. I'll eat the pieces from the bottom, please. And so I tried her drink a couple of times because I was thirsty during the movie, and boy, it's a lot of sugar. I just, I was like, ooh, geez. But she drank that whole thing and had popcorn that she shared with my wife that we didn't measure, and she ate a candy, and I don't know how much of it she ate, and I just just did the things that I do, and it was fine. And I don't really know a better way to explain it than that, other than I know what to do, and I just do it. Like, I mean, if you've ever played a sport, or if there's something in the world you're just incredibly good at, you just don't think about it. It just happens. And I don't want to say it's like riding a bike, because that seems like an old-timey statement that people will laugh at me for. But I just knew what to do, and I didn't really have to think about it. And I think that most people eventually, and I do think the podcast is helpful for that, I think you can get to that. So it sounds like you're there.
Yeah. The problem I've got at the moment is that my eyesight is getting a bit worse, which I've been denying for as long as I can. So I didn't want to get glasses, but I can't read his reading on my watch, which is just really awful. So I had to go to an optician and actually give in and get glasses so that I can read his BG on this tiny, tiny little watch face I've got.
Well, you acted like an adult. Do you know what I did when that happened to me? I stopped wearing the watch. Just put the watch down. I was like, this thing just reminds me that I'm old, and that's not what this is supposed to be for. My wife uses it now. I almost gave it away on the podcast. I was like, I almost did a thing like, win Scott's Apple Watch, because he can't see it. and my wife was like, I'll use it. And I was like, okay. But no, I've, arm's length has a different meaning to me now. I used to think of keeping something at arm's length as keeping a person away from me, and now I think of it as where I hold my phone so that I can read it.
I know.
And I got the glasses too. It was tough. It makes me, you know what it always makes me think about? It always makes me think that one day Arden might have that problem, but she'll be by herself taking care of her stuff. It always makes me sad a little.
What, she won't be able to see?
Yeah, I get worried about that, because I interview older people who have diabetes, and some of the issues with dexterity come up eventually. Buttons and applying devices and things like that become harder as you get older, and it makes me think about that stuff. But but
there won't be any devices then, will there? That's what I keep telling Teddy. There will not be any devices. It'll all be automatic and invisible, and this is the hardest bit now, so they won't have to deal with any of that.
I like your ideas. I hope that happens for sure. I mean, the way technology is able to leap forward, I guess it really just takes the will of a company to keep leaping with it. You need people to want to keep improving and innovating and making things available. So I don't know. Like, listen, it doesn't make me cry in a corner or anything like that. I just think about it sometimes. Like, she's going to get older, and still have to do this stuff. And I'm going to be dead. I mean, it's not possible for me to.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, Anna, listen, how much longer can I go? Let's be honest. I've chosen a profession where I sit still for hours and hours a week. I should have picked something where I'm moving around, don't you think? I start doing this podcast on the move. That'll sound great. Walking in the background and trees rustling. Ugh.
It could be like a mindfulness podcast, a mindfulness type one. So as long as you could have like birds tweeting and twigs snapping under your feet.
I'll just hum it. I'll hum it. Just everybody, just center yourself. Yeah. Think I can get away with putting that up 3 times a week? That'll go okay. Oh my gosh. Well, what are your hopes, like, moving forward? Like, are you thinking about algorithms for him, or do you think you'll stick with what you're doing?
That's interesting you ask, because I've been listening to you talking about the loop system, and we're going to wait till we get the Omnipod 5, is it?
Mm-hmm.
We're going to wait however long it will take for that to come out, and that's exciting.
It is.
I think by the time Teddy's left home, there'll be definitely a better way of doing it already. And, the night times won't be such a worry or anything like that. By the time he's an adult, I think we're doing the hardest bit, and that's the way it should be. So but I mean, you don't want to hope too much, but I just feel really positive about it. And even if it didn't really change now, he's okay. And he can, he can manage it. So I don't know if I've not mentioned, but he was diagnosed with celiac 4 years ago. So that's actually had more of an impact on him than his type 1. It's made type 1 seem sort of far more manageable, because the celiac was a real surprise and like a real life-changing event. And it's still something that he can't help but wish he didn't have it, because there's loads of food that he wants to eat and he can't. That's like a harder one in a way to come to terms with when you think about his future, because I think about him being, drinking beer, it's got gluten in it. You think about them being students and they're going to the pub, or they're getting pizza, and that's when I think that's the thing that's going to be it's harder to feel so positive about. But at the same time, he's growing older with it, and there's plenty of alternatives, and there's more and more alternatives all the time. So again, it's just something that will be part of him, and he'll be fine.
Yeah. What's his A1C right now?
I need to look at my bit of paper. His last A1C was 35 in March.
Let me think about how that goes. I'm looking at my...
Do you use the old numbers? Because I still think in old numbers.
I'm just looking for my chart so I can figure it out.
Yeah, I think he's been about 40 for at least 5 years now, if not more.
I'm looking it up. $5.8 in America.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, that's excellent. So good. It's really, really, really wonderful. And not too hard to achieve for you.
No, I mean, we have these, so we have a bit of a laugh, because Saturday night's pizza night, but that's pizza in, not out. Frozen pizzas. That's a night where I never get much sleep, but that's a bit of a laugh, because I do get sleep on other nights. That's fine. So yeah, there's certain things that definitely throw the BGs totally out, and it's normally food based. Late in the evening, eating things that are high carb, high fat. But the rest of it just seems easy. Yeah.
Have you heard the episode about bolusing for fat?
I did, yeah. I listened to that.
Good.
And the problem that I've got at the moment, and I don't know how long this has been going on for, is I sleep through all the alarms, and I've changed them. I've double checked the volume. I've got another alarm clock that I put on to go off every 2 hours, just in case I've slept through all the alarms on the Dexcom. So I'm still a bit scared of going too mad before I go to sleep with insulin, because I'm like, oh my God, I don't know if I'm going to wake up. I don't know how to solve that, because you can't I'm on the highest volume possible. And I know that firemen apparently have to change their alarms regularly, or they'd sleep through like the alarms when there's a fire.
Yeah.
So that is what I do, and it has no effect whatsoever.
Not helping you at all.
But I've never... Sorry?
It's not helping you at all, changing the alarms?
No, and I've never slept through anything awful. And a really, really good thing that we've discovered because of this is he's actually woken up on his own a couple of times when he's been low, proper low. And again, I only know our numbers, but let's say 2.3 or something. I don't know how much that is in your numbers.
41. So
okay.
Pretty low. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's woken up and got up and had dextrose and gone back to bed. And I've seen the graph in the morning and been like, oh my God. And he's like, it's okay, I did it. Wow.
That's so cool.
But yeah, I don't know. I think after all those years of not sleeping, it's just I need to sleep now. And yeah, I don't quite know what to do about it.
And I'm going to tell you, about the time your eyes stop working is about the time you can't just power through the night anymore either. Those things happen to me at the same time.
Oh, is it my age?
Yeah, you're getting older.
Oh, no. Yeah.
Well, I think the thing that's going to fix that, in my opinion, since you brought it up, is Omnipod 5. I think an algorithm that has good settings is going to really surprise you overnight. It's going to be pretty cool. So that should be a lot of comfort for you. I mean, I know he's still young, but do you think he thinks about going away university?
Yeah, definitely. He doesn't want to stay here, does he, in this field that we live in for the rest of his life. I think they all want to go off to the city at some point. Yeah, he's probably wants to go to uni or college or something. So he doesn't know what yet, but
your oldest is thinking about it too?
Yeah. He's it still seems he's only 15, the oldest.
Oh, okay.
So it's only the beginning of thinking about it.
I like that you're like, they don't want to, there's no way they're going to want to stay here with us. You guys will just be.
I'm talking.
Good.
Yeah, no, I suppose I'm talking because that was the way I felt.
Oh. Well,
because I was brought up in a little village and I was so desperate to get out. And I basically chose a spot on the map, which was the furthest away from where my village was. I was in Scotland and I chose a point on the map in the south of England because I was just so ready to get out of this tiny little community. And I'm like, oh, God, my kids are going to be desperate to get out of here. And none of them are actually saying that at the moment. So I'm hoping we've not walked them into thinking it's a great idea to live in a field for the rest of your life. But
yeah, with you guys paying for everything, right? How did you end up back in a small place if you wanted to get away from it so badly?
Well, life's a circle, isn't it? Do you not think?
No,
I think that more and more is you just go around and end up where you were at the beginning.
So did you go to a city and get away at first?
Oh, yeah. And I spent years in different cities. I did loads of higher education in different places. And I worked in London. And I only came back to the countryside when I was in my I was probably 40, actually. So, yeah, I'd been away for 20 odd years, away from a rural situation. And I did all the city stuff. And I think it's maybe when you have kids, you just start to sort of pine for maybe what you had in your childhood.
Did this boy drag you into the woods, or was it your idea?
No, it was me.
Oh,
no, he's from London. He's from the city, born and bred. And we went to live in London together. I worked in galleries in London, art galleries, and I'd get on the tube, the underground trains to work, and I'd come back from work and say, it's crazy, all these people are like robots on these undergrounds, on the escalators and crammed into the trains, and then there's all the cars, and on this crazy way of living, and looking out of your window and all you can see is houses. And I'd sort of rant and rave about it. And then we basically left, and he didn't think he'd like the countryside. And I've been proved right that actually this is the way we live. Well, not everyone would like it, but we love it. And
you just
so I feel,
you just went into the city like a monster from a movie, stole one of their boys and ran back into the woods with it. It's very nice that you guys found what works for you so well. It's really lovely. Yeah. So I guess I want to understand how much of management is you and how much of management is Teddy in the course of a normal day.
Okay. Well, school is totally Teddy.
No more texting. You're done with that.
He has a rule that I must not ever text him when he's at school, because it's just really embarrassing having your mum text you. So I've tried to respect that, and I think there's only once actually ever that I've texted him when I was watching and I could see that he was low. And in a way, I think he felt he needed to prove to me that he could do it really well so that I wouldn't bother him. And that's what he's done. So he is totally in charge at school. He does a pretty good job at school. School's a bit weird because I feel like there's a lot of emotion at school, because you've got all your friends there, and then you've got a teacher, you're all sitting in class being quiet, and then you come out of class an hour later and there's all loads of noise and excitement in the corridor, and then you sit down in a quiet classroom. And I think that really affects your blood sugar. So it's quite a challenging job being at school, and it's not to do with the food at all. It's to do with just the environment you're in.
Where does he, well, first of all, is he pre-bolusing his meals even at school?
Yeah, although he is, they don't really eat. Him and his friends walk around the playground looking really cool. And it's like it's not really cool to have proper food. So you might have like a bag of crisps or something, but certainly not like a sandwich or anything that's in a wrapper. Or so yeah, he tends to have a good breakfast. I make him porridge every morning, and then he eats like bird food all day, like nothing really. And then he'll totally pig out when he gets home from school.
Gotcha. The porridge he's good at bolusing for without a big spike?
Yeah, we've got it down to a T. I actually weigh it. It's the only food I ever weigh for him. I don't weigh anything else. But we've got to get the breakfast bang on if he's going to school. So I weigh it out. He has banana in it, and it's totally perfect. He's on Fias.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the pre-bolus is
shorter,
5-10 minutes max, whereas it used to be sometimes even half an hour. So if we sort of forget or we're running late, it's not a big deal. And I just always feel the porridge just keeps him going pretty well through the morning.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's excellent. And he just takes care of the whole thing. And now you're more overnights, unless he wakes up and you don't. Like I'm sorry.
Oh, no,
Go ahead.
Yeah, the minute he steps in the door, he behaves like he doesn't have diabetes anymore. So it's me.
Oh, he's not embarrassed of you then.
Yeah, it's like such a drag to bolus yourself, and you can't be bothered to do this, and it's all incredibly tiring picking up the PDM. So yeah, I take over and I don't care. I like it. So yeah, I don't I just feel while he's at home, give him a bit of a break and let him not have that hassle.
Yeah.
If he's up in his bedroom and I can't be bothered going all the way upstairs, then it's text messaging and he does it all. But no, I mean, through COVID, I pretty much did everything.
When you said you like it, you mean you like giving him a break? Or
yeah. I just feel like he deserves it. To get through a school day, it's a lot of work, and he's really good at school. He's such a good student, and he keeps saying, "Oh God, it's all that extra work with my diabetes, and no one else has got that." And I just think it's so nice for him to come home and just shed it, to take the uniform off and forget that he's got to bolus. And That's what I'm there for. I mean, I don't work much. I'm part-time, and since Teddy was diagnosed with type 1, I think my hours have just year after year, they've reduced. And I thought actually I'd be able to work more and more. But I realized that when I work a lot, I'm not thinking about his blood sugar, and then I'm not in tune with his body, and then I'm getting it wrong. And then you're stressed and you're tired, and just life gets difficult, doesn't it? So I've whittled my hours right down. So I'm a mom, you know, and I'm not always distracted by having to work. And so I just feel good knowing that I'm looking after him and giving him a break.
Nice. That's excellent. Does Tom work out of the house, or does he go somewhere for work?
Yeah, well, he works always within a 3-mile radius of where we live. We live in a cottage on like a country estate. Mm-hmm. So it's like a private landowner who owns houses and villages, and Tom's in charge of all the cottages on the estate. So there's like 100 odd cottages. Oh. So he sort of manages all the repairs and designs sort of new builds and all that sort of stuff. But since COVID, he did a lot more work in the office from home. And so he's probably at home more than he's not at home.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That whole shift has been, like, Kelly just has been in our dining room forever. And then she, said she was going back to work a month or so ago. And she went one day and went a second day. And then she came back and she said, they said to stop coming in. So I was like, okay. So she's back in the dining room again. And I don't know when she's going to go back now. Now they're saying maybe the end of September. They're not even sure. But the not commuting part was really nice. I know that she was losing a lot of time just driving back and forth to her office. It's nice.
I mean, it is really nice, isn't it, being at home? I mean, it's quite nice having the house to yourself sometimes, and I'm not quite sure if that's ever going to happen again for me. Just to have like a day on my own here would be heaven. But
I think about that.
It is really nice having everyone at home.
Yeah. No, I love everybody being here. I was sad when Cole went back to school. I was happy for him because being here was not what was supposed to happen. It was obvious. And, last night on social media, I saw Instagram stories from his baseball team, and, I can see him at practice and he's smiling and, with his friends and everything. And that's all fantastic. And, but I did really get used to him being here. And, I do miss that he's not here. I sent him a text the other day, and, I said, hi. I just said hello to him, and he said, hi. He goes, is there, he's like, what's up? And I said, just nice weather today. Made me think that if you were here, we'd, be on a field somewhere, like hitting a baseball together. And I miss you. And I just wanted to say hi.
Oh.
And he was like, oh, hey. And then, he was gone. So, that was pretty much the extent of it. But having said that, Arden's back at school now. And there was definitely a moment where I thought, oh, if Kelly would just leave, I could be by myself again for 5 minutes. I
know. I fantasize about it. I don't know what I do, but it's just.
I just would do everything in more quiet. I just like the quiet.
Yeah,
sometimes.
More quiet.
Yeah. Just a stillness that happens in the house. Although, and I don't know if you experience this or not, but I can wake up in the morning and you can feel when everybody's not there, and the house feels different with or without people in it, and it bums me out a little bit too. So I don't know what's going to come of all this. But
does that make you feel a bit lonely, do you think?
I don't know if it's lonely. I just really like being around my family, and I don't know if that's lonely or not. I just I like being able to, like, even if you don't, in a normal day, sometimes you don't even talk to people very much, but they're there. You hear them moving around, or they walk past you and you say hello, like, that kind of stuff. I don't know. I guess, is that lonely? I always think of.
I'm glad you still say hello to them when they walk past you.
Yeah,
that must mean you get on, because yeah.
Wait, yeah. You're staring at the floor. You're like, oh.
Or like elbowing them as they walk past.
Yeah, even like when my kids leave the house, they always tell us they're leaving. And
Yeah.
then there's something about that makes me feel like I'm aware of their greater movement. Like, and I don't know why that's important to me, but I like knowing. I don't even know what it is I like knowing. I like knowing not even where they are, because I don't ask them where they're going.
Mm-hmm.
Just, I'm leaving, I'll be back. And I'm like, okay, great. And then I don't know. I don't even know how to put it. It feels like a connection point for some reason.
Yeah.
I don't know, Anna. I could be out of my mind. It doesn't matter. Maybe I've been in this house too
You
long.
you might emerge though like a butterfly at some point and spread your wings and have a whole new.
Well, Arden told me last night she's leaving for school soon. She says, is it strange that a year from now I won't be here? And I'm like, so I said to her, I go, you think you can get into a college? She goes, I think I can. I was like, oh, sorry. I was just trying to tease her a little bit, And then I thought about it and I was like, she isn't going to be here. And then you're right. I am going to need to do something. So, there's some, I guess, kind of spots around the country that we haven't visited yet that we're thinking of maybe taking some road trips and driving to see things. And, but trust me, the big issue is going to be getting my wife away from work, because she is beyond a dedicated employee. She's a very type A worker. So when there's something to do, she does it. And there's always something to do. So we'll see if I can pry her away or not. Sounds like I should get her into the country and she'd relax in 2 seconds.
Oh, yeah. You could go camping.
Anything, right? Just to get away a little bit. I also think your situation is great, because if you guys get on each other's nerves and one of you snaps, you can bury the body somewhere and no one will ever know. So.
No, you're right. There's loads of places you could bury a body, or you can strop off and disappear for half an hour and nobody can find you.
Just wander off into the trees.
Yeah. We've got a herd of cattle out there, wild cattle with huge horns.
Can you get near them?
Sorry?
Can you get near them?
Well, they put their heads over our fence. But we're living in an area that they're calling like a rewilding zone. So they're basically letting the whole place go completely wild. And they've got wild ponies, and we've got these 13 white park cattle with these enormous horns. They just put a bull in with them. And it sort of changed the feel. It feels a bit like Jurassic Park now, because you hear like the undergrowth crunching and because they're quite enormous. And you go for an innocent walk, and you always have to be incredibly vigilant that they're not very near, because they could charge at you, maybe. They've got these massive horns. So, yeah, it feels like we're now living in, Jurassic Park.
The white park cattle is a medium-sized animal with mature bulls in working condition weighing approximately 2,100 pounds and cows up to 1,400 pounds. Wow. So you don't know how big that is.
So there's 13 of them, and they literally stand with their heads looking over the fence. We've got 2 dogs, so the dogs sit barking at them. And I go jogging along our track, and I have to look all the time, because the one thing the farmer said to me was, don't ever turn your back on a cow. So I go jogging, and I'm like completely terrified that they're going to be there, but I still do it. I get a bit of a kick out of the danger. It feels, like
you're
quite a good way
something.
to start the it's like my dicing with death first thing in the morning.
2,100 pounds, by the way. 2,100 pounds, by the way, is 150 stone, if that means more to you.
Okay.
Yeah, but a lot.
Yeah, and they move quickly.
It's possible your episode's going to be called Running from Cows. This is has talking to me today been fun for you, or are you let down at this point? Like we're an hour into it, are you like, oh, I wasted my time, or how are you feeling about this?
Oh, not at all. No, it's so nice to speak to you again, because I feel like I've sort of known you for so long, and I always want Arden to be doing well. And, Teddy knows that Arden was always the one who I was sort of looking at how she was getting on. And I think I honestly don't know anyone else who's got anywhere close to what you're doing. And I have friends who've had kids diagnosed in this country, and I've recommended you, and I just wish everyone was doing the management the way you speak about. And I wish, the world would be a better place.
Oh, thank you. Do you think that some of those people don't do it the way that you do? Are there some people that you meet?
Definitely.
Yeah. How does that make you feel?
I don't like to say anything because it's not my place, but it makes me cross, and it makes me cross that a child can have like quite a bad start in life if they've not been managed well. And I do think, I'll give you an example. A friend of ours that we've known for a long time was diagnosed only 2 years ago. He was about 14. And the nurse in the diabetes team told them after 6 months, he said, you don't need to check him in the night anymore because he's stabilized.
Oh.
So they told me this, and I didn't say anything, but I just thought, how can anyone ever say that? Mm. And he had a really, really bad seizure in the night, and they had to phone an ambulance, and it was utterly terrifying. And, it's just amazing. It really amazes me that the medical experts still have such a dated way of looking at type 1 diabetes.
No, it's interesting too, because as much as like I get the idea that once you say something, you feel like, okay, I said it once, like I can't come back and push, right? Like it's even though you feel like it would be valuable, there's a hard thing to want to do with getting between a person and their child's health and infer yourself into it. I just looked while you were talking, and there are hundreds of thousands of downloads in the UK since you've been on the podcast. So
really,
yeah, it's the fourth largest country for me. For me, it goes US, Canada, Australia, then UK's number 4 for me. It's pretty amazing, actually, dragging this around the map and seeing that people listen in India and South Africa and Brazil. It's very strange. There's a fair amount of downloads in Mexico, and there's even one guy listening in Greenland. So, and I've actually met him online. One day I went on Facebook and I was like, is the person in Greenland who's listening here? And this guy's like, that's me. I was like, oh. And it really is. There's literally not enough downloads for it to be more than one person. And I just thought that was so incredibly interesting. I mean, thinking back to when you were on, I was just trying this, I was wondering if this will work. And, the month your episode was up, I wouldn't think that the podcast had, maybe I can look actually, because it might be interesting. I have to go, it's so bad. I have to go back into an old, it's so long ago. I have to go back into an old system that tracks things, because the system has changed so much since then.
I know. And the picture changed. I remember when that changed.
Yeah. Arden was like, stop using pictures of me looking like a baby. And I was like, oh, okay.
Oh, it was so sweet though.
You think of her as a little kid too, right? I told her a lot of people think of you this way, and she's like, I don't care. And I was like, all right. So, all right.
How embarrassing.
Yeah, she does well with it, but I mean, there are limits to how much she'll accept, I think. April, well, this is crazy. April 2015, the month your show was on. The entire show, not just the 10 episodes that were up, but the entire show got 1,536 downloads that month. Like that whole month. Hold on a second.
Yeah.
And if I'm not mistaken, I had an episode go up this and that episode, it's only been up for a handful of hours. That episode has 1,238 downloads.
Wow.
Already. That's the episode. And I won't share with you how many thousands of downloads the whole show has today already, but it's a lot.
Wow. Does that make you feel really good?
It makes me, yes. I mean, that should be my first answer. It makes me feel like I accomplished something and that it's working and that people enjoy it and it's helpful to them. And that's why it's growing and that's why people listen to it. So that part is really amazing. I am still a little like stunned by it at times.
Yeah.
You know, that a month's worth of downloads in the first year is now a couple of, I mean, it's honestly, it's like an hour's worth of downloads now. And, it's weird. You know what? More than anything, it gives you a feeling of responsibility. That you realize how many people are listening, and you very badly do not want to lead them wrong. And it's also strange a little to know that some people are like, counting on you for their entertainment, because the show has become like it's. I don't think it's. I mean, it's a diabetes podcast, but it's a regular podcast too. You know, like I think some people just like listening to, I love listening to audio. Like before you and I got on.
Yeah, no, I do.
I was listening to something that I enjoy listening to. And then I took my headphones off and sat down here and I'm talking to you now. And when I get up, I'm going to put them back on and keep listening to what I was listening to. So it's interesting to know that somebody's sitting thinking like, I wonder when this episode's going to come out, and that they're waiting for it. It's nice. It really is. It's a very, very fulfilling feeling.
I've only got a couple more minutes because I've got to go and pick up my daughter from school.
No? So. Well, then let's say goodbye. Is there anything that we didn't talk about that you were hoping to?
No, I think we just chatted. It was lovely.
It was a nice catch up.
Yeah.
I thought it was so interesting when you reached out. I was like, oh my gosh, she was on the 10th episode. I would love, and I remember you, because I mean, try to imagine 10 episodes into making a podcast in New Jersey.
Yeah, I know.
I heard from a lady who's like, I live in the country in England and I want to be on your podcast. And I was like, wait, what? Like, wow. You know, like it was a little mind blowing, you know, and tomorrow an episode goes up with a woman who lives in Canada, but is of Iranian descent. And her son was diagnosed while they were at a wedding in Iran. And like I edited one last night with somebody from New Zealand, and a little girl from Russia was on recently. And it's really, but you were the first one. So you'll always be the first one. Anna, you'll always be my first. Well, I really appreciate you doing this. And thank you so much for taking the time to come back on again.
Thank you.
A huge thank you to one of today's sponsors, Gvoke Glucagon. Find out more about Gvoke HypoPen at gvokeglucagon.com/juicebox. You spell that GVOKEGLUCAGON.com/juicebox. And everything else you need to know is either at juiceboxpodcast.com, diabetesprotip.com, or right there in the show notes of your podcast player. I'd like to take a moment to thank Anna for coming back on the show, but also for coming on in the first place. I breezed over it a little bit in the episode, but Anna came on the podcast, like I said, in April of 2015. I think the show was going up once a week, and it started in January. January of 2015, the podcast started. I was putting up one episode a week. And I didn't really know what I wanted the podcast to be yet. I think Anna's was one of the very first conversations that I had, just a talk with a person. And it must have had a real impact on me, because the very next episode is episode 11, which now we all know to be Bold with Insulin and a fan favorite. But, you know, the experience I had talking to her put me in that headspace when I went back to record episode 11. So I'll always be very grateful that she came on the podcast back when, honestly, very few people were going to hear her story. But today, a magnitude of many, many more heard what she had to say. So I appreciate her helping me build this thing for you. Thank you so much for listening. I'll be back very soon with another episode of the Juicebox Podcast.